It's all covered in today's China Truths.
China currently operates 3 aircraft carriers, yet each has been shadowed by scandal and weakness. The Liaoning, originally a half-finished Soviet carrier bought from Ukraine, has faced repeated breakdowns, corrosion issues, and thick black smoke billowing from its engines. So embarrassing that authorities once banned cameras near the ship. The Shandong, China's first domestically built carrier, still relies on the outdated ski jump system, limiting aircraft payloads and endurance. Reports from exercises show it lagging far behind US and Japanese standards. Even the much-hyped Fujian, launched with advanced catapults, has raised doubts. Experts note it is still conventionally powered, suffers from construction delays, and may not achieve true combat readiness for years. Together, these carriers reflect more of Beijing's obsession with prestige than real naval strength. A fleet of Tofu drag warships built for display rather than war. On the afternoon of August 16, 2024, a disaster struck in Nantong, Jiangsu province. At around 4 p.m., flames suddenly engulfed the Soviet-built aircraft carrier Minsk, which China had acquired years earlier and anchored along the Yangtze River. Footage released by Doot News on the following day showed the blaze had been put out, but the damage was staggering. The radar and communication systems on the carrier's island were nearly wiped out, while the 3-level navigation bridge was completely gone. In the clip, a shocked bystander could be heard shouting, "It's finished!" The carrier is burning to the point of collapse. Look, there are lights flickering on deck and maybe even people trapped inside. The video revealed how the fire first erupted below the hull, belching black smoke into the sky. By nightfall, the flames surged upward, torching large sections of the vessel and leaving parts of the superstructure charred and collapsed. Other scenes showed numerous personnel rushing across the deck, apparently dealing with the aftermath, while temporary tents were hastily erected along the riverbank near where the warship was docked. According to the Central News Agency, the Minsk dated back to 1978 and once served as a frontline carrier for the Soviet Navy. It was the second of the Kiev-class carriers, designed to launch VTOL fighter jets and armed with anti-ship, air defense, anti-submarine, and strike weapons, a symbol of Cold War naval might. The Chinese Communist Party had planned to transform the vessel into a training and exhibition center, with a grand public opening scheduled for October to showcase China's military power. But that ambition has now gone up in smoke. The Minsk was once a symbol of Soviet naval power, but by the time China acquired it, the ship was already outdated. Instead of modernizing it for combat use, Beijing simply turned it into a showpiece, a floating monument meant to impress the public. For years, the carrier stood as a hollow display of strength rather than a functional weapon of war. This was not about military readiness, it was about spectacle. The fire that consumed the Minsk revealed just how fragile this illusion really was. It was never a war machine in China's hands, only a prop. And now that prop lies in ashes. China's current aircraft carriers, including the Liaoning and Shandong, carry the same burden of image over substance. They are massive ships with gleaming decks, but their engines often belch black smoke, betraying their inefficiency. Naval experts have long pointed out that these carriers lack the technology and training needed to rival the US Navy or even Japan's maritime forces. What Beijing wants is not performance but presence. The carriers exist to sail in front of cameras, to be paraded in military propaganda, not to fight real battles. They are, in many ways, floating tofu projects. The truth is that China's carrier fleet suffers from deep structural flaws. Poor quality steel, outdated propulsion systems, and unreliable electronics plague these ships. Even during routine exercises, videos show thick exhaust clouds trailing behind them, a reminder of their inefficiency. While the Communist Party celebrates them as symbols of a rising power, sailors quietly struggle with breakdowns and maintenance issues. A real Navy demands power projection, but China's carriers project only staged power. They are monuments to vanity, not capability. The contrast with the US Navy is striking. American carriers are nuclear-powered, capable of sailing vast distances with entire air wings ready for combat. China's carriers, by comparison, are noisy, fuel-hungry, and limited in range. They can't even properly support modern fighter jets without technical headaches. For all their size, they remain little more than training platforms dressed up as symbols of prestige. The world sees the glittering photos released by Chinese state media. But behind the scenes, these carriers are fragile and inefficient, just like the Minsk before it. The Minsk fire is more than an accident. It is a metaphor. It shows what happens when a nation builds military props instead of real power. China's carriers look formidable from afar, yet their flaws are obvious the closer you get. Just as shoddy apartment blocks collapse under storms, these Tofu dreg carriers cannot withstand the true tests of war. They exist to deceive, to intimidate neighbors, and to feed nationalism. But the flames on the Minsk stripped away the facade, exposing weakness beneath the paint and propaganda.
It's all covered in today's China Truths.
China is in the throes of an unprecedented wave of disasters, as if nature had unleashed its collective fury. In the south, torrential rains have turned cities into seas, washing away homes, bridges, and lives. In the north, fields are cracking under the scorching sun. Rivers and lakes are drying up, and livestock are dying of thirst. Areas that had just escaped the floods are now facing outbreaks of disease, dengue fever, bird flu, and a mysterious virus that has overwhelmed hospitals. Not only the countryside, but also major cities are struggling. Food supplies are disrupted, and prices are skyrocketing. Farmers have lost their crops, workers have lost their jobs, and millions have been forced to leave their hometowns in search of survival. Images of dead animals floating, thirsty children drinking murky water, and patients crammed into hospital corridors have shocked the public on social media. Amidst the chaos, the government has repeatedly called for calm and unity. But the storm of natural disasters, droughts, and epidemics continues to sweep across the land, leaving behind a weary and devastated nation. Nature is roaring, and China is paying the price. Never before in modern history has there been such a succession of natural disasters, so fierce and so rapid. It is no longer a sporadic phenomenon, no longer a random anomaly, but a series of consecutive, violent, and terrifying events. Is this merely global climate change? Or is it the final warning that heaven and earth are sending to a regime that has driven billions into a dead end? On the 4th of this month, floods struck several areas in Guangdong, including Heshan Peak in Zhaoqing City. Witnesses said many people were swept away and some died, though no official casualty figures have been released. Videos posted by netizens showed floodwaters rushing into the lobby of the Heshan Peak Hotel. Residents saw people swept away, including security guards in the parking lot, while others were electrocuted underwater. Locals reported that the water had reached the first floor and carried off all goods. One man filming said that just a month ago someone had drowned in this tunnel, leading the government to block it, but now water pouring down from the mountain had no outlet. His warehouse goods, worth over $1 million, were destroyed, leaving him on the brink of bankruptcy. That evening, heavy rain continued in the Duanzhou and Dinghu districts of Zhaoqing. The University of Industry and Commerce, Zhaoqing College, and the Bailing Mountain and Dinghu Mountain areas were all flooded, creating a horrifying scene. According to Chim News, from 8 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. on the 4th, Zhaoqing suffered heavy downpours, with localized flooding that submerged Bailing Road in Duanzhou District and Shangshan Road in Dinghu District. Many businesses along these roads were also underwater. At around 8 p.m., the low-lying section of Qijing Road from Daibin Village to Zhaoqing University in Bailing Mountain was deeply flooded, while the steep slope on Dinghu Mountain Road turned into torrents of muddy water. The city's meteorological bureau warned that Zhaoqing would continue to face heavy rain in the coming days, with water levels in the Shijiang River and Suijiang River expected to rise, raising the risk of flash floods, landslides, and widespread inundation. On the same day, Songyue Bay in Huidong County, Huizhou City, Guangdong Province, was also submerged. Residents said newly purchased cars were destroyed. According to local authorities, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the 4th, 5 hydrological stations in Huizhou recorded water levels above the warning mark, including the Yonghan River in Longmen County, the Baitang River in Boluo County, the Xie River, the Gongzhuang River, and Donghu Lake, Liaoning in the Chengkai High-Tech Park. On May 5th, shocking videos flooded Chinese social media. Dongguan City turned into a vast ocean overnight. Cars disappeared beneath the water. Shops were destroyed in just a few hours. The Meteorological Bureau revealed the culprit. Relentless downpours upstream pushed the Xi River to a terrifying 19.22 meters, still climbing toward a peak of 21.3 meters. That's well above the danger line, forcing authorities to issue the highest level red alert. Local headlines summed it up. Guangdong has officially entered endless rain mode. Meanwhile in Shenzhen, residents were jolted awake by thunder, lightning, and torrential rain. Streets became rivers, cars stranded, people scrambling in panic. By 4 a.m., the city raised its first red alert for heavy rain since Super Typhoon Mangkhut in 2018. Officials warned, prepare for flash floods, prepare for the worst. Guangxi province was also drowning.